What's up, everybody? I'm Cass Hargis. This is here with Lance Lacoste for Talking Ball, y'all, and it is the best week for high school football in Louisiana. I think it's the best week for football in general. Thanksgiving week. How we doing, Lance?
It's been good. Love this week. A lot of good sports. I'm actually I got the D1 hat going. We had a great Thanksgiving camp. I got the Tulane shirt going because I'm gonna be in Tulane Stadium tomorrow watching the Green Wave, and you're not gonna see them. I got Pelican shorts on. The Pelicans are playing right now. It hasn't been great so far, but sticking with the Pelicans. Season's still young, so yeah, just a huge fan of sports.
Don't give up on them too early. No, this week's awesome. You got the Maui Invitational in college basketball. You got all the college basketball rolling up, and then I don't know if there's a holiday more synonymous with a sport than Thanksgiving is with football, and makes for a good week. And we've got some really good matchups for this week. You know, playing high school football in Louisiana, you always talk about wanting to practice during Thanksgiving week, and we've got some teams with an opportunity to do just that. And I know, you know, I got the chance to do it twice, and it is a special week to practice. It's a cool thing.
Yep. Yeah, I'm sure. And you know, it's funny. I'm looking. I got a bunch. First off, I got a bunch of stats for you. I got stats, facts
Oh, okay.
for you tonight. And so,
Yes.
but one of the cool things, all 8 state champs are still alive from last year. And so, I just think about maybe the advantage those teams have that have done this Thanksgiving week. Just last year probably feels like yesterday. And 5 of the 8 runner-ups from last year are still in it too. So it's a lot of common folks that have been here and enjoyed this great week of football.
Yeah, no doubt. And it almost feels like this is the week where you go from having, you want to call it a Cinderella or an upstart team. Like this is the week that kind of starts shifting from really good teams on a year-by-year basis to really good programs and programs that are in it year in and year out. And with that, let's hear those stats. I can't wait. Let's start with the Division I non-select. We've got 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
And we have 2 teams that are ranked in the 20s still alive that are traveling. There's a possibility that we could have a semifinal with a 21 versus 24 seed. The 24 seed Chalmette travels to Neville. I know we've been pro Owls on this podcast. Every episode we had Coach Joe St. Philip on here with us last episode. He was great. What those guys have done. Not just this year, but over the course of the last few years have been unbelievable. It's been fun to watch, fun to be a part of. They got their hands full going up there to Neville this week. I wouldn't count them out, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah, Chalmette is the lowest seed still in the playoffs. And so they're going to maybe the best team in the playoffs. And so, yeah, it's going to be a huge challenge. Everybody's been trying to count out the Chalmette Owls for a year or so, with going to a different district. They proved that they were worth their weight in this new district. Then they went and won 2 road playoff games too against higher seeded teams that they weren't supposed to beat. So I love what Coach St. Philip said. It was basically our kids believe that we can win. That's half the battle. And if we're in the game late, if we can keep this thing close, who knows? We believe we're going to find a way to win if we can keep this thing close. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And they have every right and every reason to believe that. Especially the way that they've won the last 2 games with a game-winning kick against Terrebonne, and then the way that that Hahnville game ended. It's just Neville's a different beast. They're 9-1, 10-1 now with the playoffs. Their only loss was to Alexandria the last game of the season. They got blown out 42-16 on the road, but they have some impressive wins over teams that are still in the playoffs: St. Thomas More, Ruston, and West Monroe. The team that Neville's going to put out onto the field is going to be really good. Playing at Neville Stadium is another challenge in it of itself. One that Chalmette's going to be up for, and I'd like to think that what Coach St. Philip said is completely true. If they're in it late, watch out. So that I think that the key for Chalmette is going to be getting off to a good start, not letting it kind of get away from them early.
Yep.
All right, that winner is going to play the winner of West Monroe Central. If I had to bet, and I don't know this, I'm just talking out loud, but if I had to bet, if we told Central prior to the season, y'all are going to be the 4 seed, you're going to get a bye, you're going to win your second round playoff game, you're going to host the quarterfinal, and you're going to have the 21st ranked team that upset the number 5 seed come to your stadium, they would take it.
Yep.
Then I think if you tell them it's West Monroe, they might have a different story.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it every week. Just getting over that West Monroe logo feels like it's half the battle in this one. But I'm looking at Central Baton Rouge. They scored 45 points last week on a West Washita team. They're scoring a lot of points. West Monroe, quite the opposite. They had the second lowest total points by a winning team in the last round, only 20 points, beating up a Mandeville team that we knew was undermanned a little bit, but with their best player being out. So, I don't know if West Monroe has seen an offense quite like Central Baton Rouge. So I think I kind of like the West Monroe run of upsets to maybe end right here with the Central Baton Rouge team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Central's a team that, we talk about West Monroe always being in it. Central's a team that they made a deep run last year. They were the lower seed last year. They went and did it on the road. Now they get to do it at home. It's a program that's kind of been building maybe towards this exact moment. I think if Central can score a little bit early, maybe jump up ahead on West Monroe and make West Monroe play catch up and score some points, there's no reason that Central can't win this ball game. Yep. Bottom half of the bracket, we've got another 2-5A team hosting. You got the 3 seed Ruston playing the 6 seed Southside. Ruston's the defending state champ. Southside, new school. This is actually their second time being in the quarterfinals in their very brief history. They blew out Walker last week, 47-0. I just think Ruston may be just on a different level, especially traveling to Ruston. It might be a little bit too much for Southside. Southside is going to want to keep the football on the ground, be physical, and play defense, and that's exactly what Ruston does. It seems like Ruston just does it at a level that really hadn't been seen around here in a long time.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting matchup. It's kind of your new kid on the block versus the old gatekeeper type feel, And yep. Ruston, they've been around winning. They've been in the dome since we were kids. So what Ruston is capable of. They've been here many a times. And then you got the Southside team that I don't think anybody completely doubted them, but nobody expected that they were going to go and just demolish these first 2-round opponents. They played against Live Oak and Walker. That's 2 good teams, 2 good programs that are coaching, great facilities, and they just go destroy them. So they're not. They've proven that they're not scared to go up to Ruston, but it also does feel like you're going up against the former state champ that has done this for years too.
Yep. No, that's and that's the thing with this round is you can look at every matchup and say, man, this is a really good matchup for these reasons right here. But the new kid on the block versus the kind of old guard kind of has that feel to it. It's going to be an interesting one. Again, I think if Southside can, maybe withstand the storm early, they can kind of stay in it and make a game. But if Ruston gets off to a fast start, they might be able to just run away with that one. And then down at the bottom, you've got Destrehan making its second straight trip to the Shreveport area. They're going to take on an Airline team that has done nothing but score points. Destrehan is now fully healthy. Again, it's another team that can put up points from anywhere on the field. This might be one of the better matchups in the state.
Definitely one of the best matchups. It feels like it's going to be a ton of points scored. Like you mentioned, second time in a row, Destrehan's going to the Shreveport area. Third time in a row, they're traveling to North Louisiana because they went to Washita first round. And so, I have that wrong.
They hosted.
Destrehan, my bad. But yeah, twice in a row, they're going to the Shreveport. Fun fact here with Airline's quarterback. Did you know about this kid, this Airline quarterback? Ben Taylor, all right? He is currently the second all-time career passing yards on the list for Louisiana.
Yeah,
passing yards. So, and he's not catching. Brock Berlin's 2000.
Brock Berlin's one, right?
Yeah, so he's not catching the first guy. But there's 2 more that we'll get to. There's 3 kids, quarterbacks in the playoffs right now that are on this top 20 career passing yard list. And so Ben Taylor is second quarterback of Airline. So that definitely leads me to believe that Destrehan's got their hands full. Both teams are scoring a lot of points.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Airline's got a receiver that's committed to LSU. I believe. I know Destrehan has one as well.
Yeah.
This one has a chance to have a lot of fireworks. And if you I don't want to look too far ahead, but no matter who comes out of this game, if you look to that semifinal, if it's with Ruston, man, seeing those two offenses go against that defense, that's going to be something to watch.
Yeah, and this kid, he's right at 12,000. He needs like 10 yards to get across 12,000 yards for his
That's
passing career.
that's insane. That's absolutely that's hard to do in practice. Hard to do in practice. That's your Division One non-select bracket. In the Division One select bracket, we've got it feels like there's a handful of teams that always seem to be making runs at state championships. You have a team that's on the cusp and trying to do that, and then you've got down at the bottom, you kind of almost can kind of forget about Byrd and Alexandria. But if you start up at the top, you've got St. Thomas More. This is their first year playing up in Division One after winning back-to-back Division Two state championships. They've actually won 3 of the last 4 in Division Two. They've always played a difficult schedule and managed that schedule very well. Now they're traveling to Karr. Karr, like you said, maybe the best team in the state. Karr playing at home, I don't think St. Thomas More is going to walk in there and be intimidated, which a lot of teams, maybe be susceptible to doing when they go play Karr. But this is a tough uphill battle for STM.
I think the good thing for STM is they faced St. Aug last week.
Yep.
They got a feel for that, that type of speed, that environment, that the athleticism and the style of play that St. Aug brings to the table. It's certainly a similar style of play that Karr comes with. Both teams very good quarterbacks that run the system so beautifully with a lot of tempo. Both teams are super talented on the defensive line. Both teams are super talented in the secondary, and so I think Karr is just a much better version of St. Aug, I think is the best way to kind of put it. I've seen both teams. Both teams are really good, but it's good that St. Thomas More, almost had a little tune-up game. It's a tough tune-up game, but a little tune-up game preparing for Karr. And like we talked about a couple episodes ago, St. Thomas More has their own great stadium atmosphere. So I don't think they're going there with. I don't see them being intimidated by the atmosphere of Karr, but certainly they got their hands full. I stand by. I think this might be the best high school football team I've ever seen. It's the Karr team.
Yeah, well, you mentioned them playing St. Aug last week to kind of get almost get ready for Karr. St. Aug did hit 2 or 3 really big plays, and if you're going to allow Karr to do that, maybe even giving them 4 or 5, I think that's where the game can get away from you. So obviously, it's easy to sit here and say they have to limit the big plays, but I'll be interested to see how St. Thomas More plays it on offense. If they try to slow it down and run it, or do because they do run the football, they just run it at a really high pace. If they try to slow that pace down to keep it from Karr.
Yeah, it's going to sound very elementary, but you got to limit the amount of times that you punt against this team. Like I watched it with Karr, where it was the more that the more they had the opportunity to block your punt or return a punt. There's just so much speed and so many athletes on the field. It just becomes dangerous, and so being able to maintain drives, get first downs, and not bring that punt team on very often is going to be super important for that St. Thomas More team as far as just keeping it close and giving themselves a chance.
Yeah, no, that's going to be interesting. That's a big time matchup. And then speaking of big time matchups, you got Rummel headed to Catholic of Baton Rouge. Again, these two teams played. It took them 2 days to finish the game last year with the weather. Catholic came out on top. I believe they played in 5 of the last 7 playoffs. This is a big-time matchup. Rummel going to Catholic. Both of them had kind of an easy time last week to almost get ready for this one. Catholic's going to have a tough environment. Obviously, it's going to be nothing that Rummel hasn't seen before. This one specifically, this is going to be a big-time football game.
Yeah, this is incredible that they're matching up again. I'm sure if you're Nick Monica and those Rummel Raiders, this is actually exactly what you hope for. Like I can just imagine the way they are talking about this being a revenge game from last year and everything they tried to overcome and couldn't overcome. And so I've been close to that Rummel program. I have a Rummel State Championship ring actually, and I know the culture and the mindset of that Rummel program, and it's going to be a war. They're coming ready to play, and like you mentioned, both of these teams they had buys. Then their second round games were basically buys. So you got to figure these teams are ready to go, probably fully healthy, and just chomping at the bit to get at it again. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, no, this is gonna be great. No, it's like you said. I remember, seeing last year after the way that game ended, it was almost like Rummel and Coach Monica was obviously they were mad, like and upset about it, but it was like they had a little something behind it. Like there's a little extra that those dudes are going to bring up from Metairie to Baton Rouge this weekend. That's going to be a fun one. Catholic in their last their last regular season game against Zachary, they scored 73 points. They also gave up 55 in that game. So if that says anything, Rummel may be able to score a little bit. I don't think Rummel wants to get into a 73 to 55 matchup. They're going to try to keep it low scoring and play some defense, but they might have some chances to score.
Yeah, it is an old school Rummel football team. Like we are going to run the football, two really good running backs with a really good offensive line. We are running the football, super physical, and really good on defense. So yeah, I don't see a lot of points going up on the scoreboard.
Yeah, no, it's the old typical Rummel team from the early 2000s, mid 2000s. The only difference is that they're starting to wear some baby blue uniforms, and I like it.
Yeah,
I like it. I like it. Down at the bottom of that D1 select bracket, you've got the 6 seed Teurlings Catholic hosting the 19 seed John Curtis Patriots. Curtis went on a road last week, beat Acadiana 28-27. Teurlings was at home and beat Jesuit 31-23. Teurlings has been a team again, just like STM. They were in Division II in years past. It's their first year up in Division I. They've made runs into the third round. I think they might have even made a semifinal appearance once or twice, but they haven't gotten over that hump. They haven't made it to the Superdome, no matter how good their season has gone or how good their team was. This is an opportunity for them. Obviously, when you look at the bracket and you're getting the winner of Curtis and Acadiana, I don't think it matters who comes out of there. It's going to be tough. They get Curtis at home, a chance for Teurlings to kind of slay the beast and kind of put all that to rest and move on to the semifinals. But it's a Curtis team that might have found something last week. Like you mentioned, they took care of the football. Their quarterback grew up a little bit. Curtis can come over here, making a return trip to Lafayette and get another win.
I mean, you being in that area, would you say this might be Teurlings Catholic's biggest home game, most monumental home game of their school's history? Maybe. I mean, that's what it feels like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that, I didn't think about it till you said it, but 100%. The only other ones that they would have hosted were regular season games with St. Thomas More.
Yeah,
but nothing of this magnitude.
Yeah, and they have a great atmosphere. I went there. I think you want to staff it. What is that Holy Cross, right? We went there and gave it to us that night. Yeah, they gave it to us pretty good that night. But it was a cool atmosphere, and both these teams are coming off really impressive wins. I don't know if we maybe doubted both of these teams last week, and they both, beating Acadiana on the road is incredible no matter who you are, even if you are John Curtis. And then noticing Teurlings put up 31 on a really good Jesuit defense. Nobody has really done that to Jesuit this year except for Rummel. Rummel put up a bunch of points. So I was really impressed by that too. So, we'll see. This feels like a really good matchup and a great opportunity for Teurlings.
Yeah, no, it does. And, it almost might be, and, you think of Curtis and what all that is and the tradition and the program. But just with Teurlings being so close to Acadiana in the vicinity, in the area, it almost might be better that it's Curtis that's coming to Teurlings for them to kind of get over that hump. Yep. Because they're not as familiar. They obviously know about it, but, not as familiar. They're not going to be there's an aura with Acadiana in the area that they don't have to deal with. It's a separate beast, but that's going to be a really, really fun game. And then down at the bottom, the 2 seed Alexandria, that they look like they're on a mission. They get Byrd. Byrd went to St. Paul's last week and won 37-15. Alexandria absolutely demolished Evangel. There was a running clock in the second quarter. I think it's going to be tough to slow this Alexandria team down.
Yeah, it's this Byrd team is not giving up a lot of points. So I mean, it does feel like maybe this could be one of Ash's tougher battles as far as what they're facing their offense is facing from the opponent's defense. Just looking at that St. Paul's game, I know it ended up 37-15. It was even worse early in the game. It took St. Paul's a while to get to 15. So, they had an impressive win last week. But like you mentioned, I mean, what Ash has done so far, the scores that they're putting out every week is just incredible. So, I don't see an upset there, but it does seem like Byrd has been pretty strong defensively.
No, they haven't. Look at Byrd in week 9. They played Airline. Airline only scored 30. They only scored 35 points. Every other game Airlines played, they scored 45 plus. So there may be something to that, but this Ash team and what they got going on in Central Louisiana it's impressive, and I don't think that train's slowing down anytime too soon. That'll do it for the Division I select and non-select. We'll move on now to Division II non-select. And right up here at the top, we have the 1 seed Franklinton Demons hosting Lakeshore. This is a rematch of a game which ended up being the district championship game in week 6. Franklinton won that game 35-28. It was close. Obviously, it was a back and forth game all night, and now they get the rematch again. It's being hosted by Franklinton.
It's just always interesting when you see teams play for a second time. You never know how it's going to play out. Sometimes it plays out exactly like the first game. Sometimes it's the complete opposite. The way they, I had to do it one time as a coach where we played St. Aug week 9, and then we had to play St. Aug again 2 weeks later, and we beat them both times, luckily. But it was that feeling of when you're preparing, are we just going to do the same thing that we did last time because it worked and we beat them, or since we did it last time and it beat them, are they prepared now to beat us at what we did last time? So now we need to, and you get into like this overthinking a little bit, and so it's just it's a weird feeling, I can tell you that. And so
you can almost start overcoaching because you don't know, and we've got the perfect guy to.
There he is.
What's up, Coach?
There he is.
Hey, how you doing?
Awesome. Hey, we'll jump.
Good timing.
Yeah, perfect timing. I appreciate you hopping on. We're going to pick up the conversation where we left off. We were just talking about y'all hosting Lakeshore again,
right,
and the challenge of facing the team twice. Do you almost overthink it? You don't want to do what you did last time. You want to do something different. How do you handle that?
Well, Cass, I'll tell you. First of all, it's always great talking to two Holy Cross men. So I'll just throw that out there. And two excellent athletes. Yeah, we thought about it for a while, and the big thing for us was just let's work on us. We're not going to change a whole lot. I mean, we're 13 weeks into it now, right? If you count August, we're 17 weeks into it. So, what we do offensively and defensively is what we're going to do. We work in some things, formationally that may be a little different than what we had done before. Maybe some unbalanced things things that maybe they didn't see from us before. But at the end of the day, after we thought about it, it's just let's tackle better. Let's work on ball security. Our kicking game, Lance, is critical. You'll like this, Lance. We just worked harder in the weight room. I mean, we just kept working out harder in the weight room. This whole week, it just seemed to be more intense for us because we do know who we're playing. We played them before. Up until this year, Lakeshore's beaten Franklinton 8 consecutive years. We finally broke that in week 6. So we didn't change a whole lot. We didn't even really change our practice schedule. We practice. Our practice schedule is still 25 periods, and we follow the same progression through it.
Cool. Hey, so you already kind of stay on that topic, I guess. This week, Thanksgiving week, off of school, I'm sure. I know you've been in Thanksgiving week more than a couple times as a coach, so I'm sure having that experience goes a long way. But I'm sure I know at Lakeshore, their head coach has been doing this a long time.
Right.
He's had a lot of success. He's been Thanksgiving week a lot as well. So let's talk to us. How you handling Thanksgiving week, and how are the kids doing with being out of school and schedule being a little different?
Well, I went back and forth. When I was at Hornville, I talked to Coach Robichaux, who was at Destrehan at the time, and he never changed the time he practiced. So, they practiced at, let's say, 3 o'clock in the afternoon all week, all year long. When Thanksgiving week rolled around, they were still alive, which they usually were. They practiced at 3 o'clock. So we went late Monday, which gave us time to work on film. But then we were early Tuesday and early today, and obviously we'll be early tomorrow. One of the things we've tried to do a little differently, because it is the first time since 2015 that Franklinton's been this deep in the playoffs, we tried to make it a little more festive. So we fed our kids every morning. We started out kind of, singing different schools fight songs, just things like that to make it a little festive, and make them realize how special it is. And, today when practice was over, I told them kind of the story that Sean Payton had relayed about when they got on the bus after the Super Bowl. He was a little, melancholy, a little sad, because he realized that team was never going to be together again, and there's never a guarantee you're going to be in this position again. And we get a little false sense of security because we do have it rolling. This isn't a 1-year wonder type deal for us. We have a really, really good team returning. Our quarterback, who's special, is only a junior. Our skilled kids, with the exception of our running back and our slot receiver, are juniors. We bring back 2 offensive linemen. Defensively, we're at the first and third levels, we're all sophomores and juniors. Our linebackers are seniors. So we have a really good young group. But I wanted to let them know that there's no guarantee you're going to be back here. 2011, I told them the Saints were the best team in the NFL in 2011. San Francisco pops them out of the playoffs. 2019, everybody knew what happened in 2019, right? They were the best team in the NFL, and they don't get the pass interference call against the Rams, and they've never been back to the Super Bowl. So we ended practice with that today. Like, even though we're on a roll, we've won 9 games in a row, and we're 10-1 overall, and we're the number 1 seed. All those things people like to talk about. At the end of the day, there's no guarantee that you can be that ever again. So you better take advantage of where you are now. And we also talked a little bit about, we play on grass, which is Demon Stadium's a tough place to play. You got to want to go to Franklinton, right? You just don't drive to Franklinton. You got to want to go to Franklinton to get there. It's a long way down Highway 25. And so we use that to our advantage. We play on grass. It's going to be cold. It's going to be slick. They're going to have to make a trip up north. And so we talked about all those things and how special it is for that community.
Yeah, no, I was going to touch on that too. I'm glad you said that, Coach. Talk about how special it is, for you and your staff to go up to a place that loves football, that have great tradition. 10, 15 years ago, you could set a timer for Franklinton playing this
Right.
week. That seemed to be lost the last few years, and now that whether you're ahead of schedule or not, kind of irregardless of that, how special is it for that community up there this week?
It's phenomenal, Cass. I mean, Washington Parish, I've said this a few times. I knew who Franklinton was because when I was at EJ, they were in the district with us. You guys were probably playing then. And Franklinton reminds me a lot of pre-Katrina Chalmette High. It really does. Hard working class people, a really supportive community that loves the school. They and it's not just in football. It's really, they're very, as you well know, they're very good in baseball. They're very good in softball, and those teams have won for a while. And when football slipped, it's almost like Franklinton kind of became an athletic afterthought, even though Coach Tajan baseball, they were doing great things, and our softball program was advancing in the playoffs. It's a football town. The principal is the ex-head coach who brought him to consecutive state championships. And
Yeah.
he's been a good friend of mine for a while, going all the way back to when I was at EJ. And so it is a special. You drive through the town and they got signs up on the streets, and they're going to sell out the home side. They get out early and help us paint the field. I mean, all those kind of things that would happen in a small town happen. And there'll be a big tailgate section, and they feed all the kids before and after the game. And it really is a great environment. I really was fortunate to be able to get there. And, it just really is a great place to coach high school football.
Yes, I'd love to just, we got to ask. Last year, you guys struggled. The years before that, so it was a struggle. I mean, what has really been the difference? I mean, you say you have great players, but it's always more than just great players. Like, how'd you guys turn this around so quickly from last year to this year?
Lance, it's the weight room, man. Drew Mizell, I know you know Drew.
Yeah, Drew's with you?
Drew's with me. He runs my
I don't
weight
think I
program.
knew that.
Yeah, he runs my weight
That's the
program.
secret.
And I will tell him, he said, we talk about you a lot.
Yep.
In a
That's
good
awesome.
way. In a good way. He's very
He's
complimentary of you. Look, I've always maintained I'm not going to outcoach anybody. I'm not. But I'm going to outwork everybody that there is. And it started in the weight room, and we lost close games last year. We were 3-7, but we had 6 losses by 13 total points. And like I do, if you can get stronger and you can get faster, you're going to flip those close games. And so sure enough, this game we win. We beat 2 teams in overtime that are still playing, at a very talented Pine and Jewel Sumner, which are right up the road from us. And we beat Lakeshore on the last drive of the game. It was 28-28. They kicked off to us, and we took a 4-minute and 40-second drive down the field and scored with 22 seconds left to win that game 35-28. So, even the game we lost to Covington, we lost because we still didn't quite figure out who we were just yet. And we missed a tackle, and good running back for Covington broke a long run for about 35 yards out on a missed tackle. We wound up losing by a score. But I think the big thing for us, and the reason we were able to flip it, really goes back to the weight room. It really does, and really is the reason they slipped a little bit. I'm the 4th head coach for these seniors, and like anybody else, athletes like you two guys know, when you have that kind of turnover in coaches and turnover in staff, the room that gets neglected is the weight room. And everybody's got a different weight room philosophy. And when I was able to get Drew on board, it would be like having you, Lance, or having Christian Bailey. It would have, like, you guys know the weight room, specific lifts, and that's what's got us winning. We're not out coaching anybody, but we're gonna out hit you, and we're gonna out strong you, and we're just gonna outlast you from a conditioning standpoint.
Yeah. That's awesome. That makes a lot more sense. I'm glad I asked, because Drew's incredible. And
yeah, he's phenomenal. He really,
certainly.
I'm telling you, we do talk a lot about you guys and what you guys did at the other place where you were, and we implemented that lifting program to the letter. Not just the lifting, Lance, the running, the movement, the resistance running, the change of directions, all those things are now 2 years, and we're 2 years into this. And you could see it on Friday night. I mean, it is clearly obvious we're winning games in the late 3rd and 4th quarter because we're just stronger and in better shape than our opponents.
Yeah, Cash Drew is a Southeastern track guy, by the way. So
I knew that.
Yeah,
that name sounds familiar.
Just a little bit younger than us, but I think he probably was in school at the same time as you. But yeah, he does a great job of. It's not just the weight room; it's applying it to what we're doing on the field as well. And that's what's most important.
It goes without saying, as somebody doing something really good and successful went to Southeastern.
We actually went up there and practiced last week on Tuesday night. It was the best practice we've ever had. We went up there and practiced because the weather was bad. The good thing about having a grass field is not many people get on it. The bad thing about it is when it rained like it did last Tuesday, you better find a place to practice.
Yeah, no doubt. I did. I think I saw a picture of y'all up there. That's awesome. You mentioned, last year being 3-7 to turn around to this year, and the difference being in the weight room. As a head coach, as a guy bringing in your staff, what was the one thing, maybe going back to last year when you took over, that y'all identified culturally? And I know the weight room's got a big deal in that, but not necessarily what do we need to change, but where do we need these guys to get That way we can make a jump in year 2.
We needed to make a physical change in the facility, Cass. I remember when I walked in there, it's funny, Shane had called me right after a Holy Cross had let me go and asked me if I was retired. And I'm like, hell, I'm not retired. That's not how I'm ending my career, you know? And he said, Guy was getting out of coaching, and would I be interested? And so I said, I'm absolutely interested. And we went up there, and I remember walking in that building, and I'm like, oh my God, man, ceiling tiles were missing. The floor was all chipped up. The lockers were all dented up. The weight room was atrocious. And so the very first thing we did was painted the floors, painted lockers, put new lockers in, hung signage, put a rubber floor down in the weight room. And it was all a blue collar, kind of fundraising type deal. And community came in and helped us tremendously. And, we bought some extra racks, and we bought bars, and, bought dumbbells, and bought bands and everything we needed for the weight room. And when those kids saw that physical change taking place, they kind of said, well, maybe we're on to something here. And then, when we went 3-7 last year, and those guys knew that, it was funny. People kept asking me, are you coming back? I thought it's because I was old. And they're like, are you coming back, coach? I'm like, yeah, I'm coming back. Hell yeah, I'm good. I'm ready to go. I've lost about 70 pounds, and I got more energy than I know what to do with. And so, I said, I'm coming back. And it was funny because not that it meant anything other than the kids knowing that somebody was coming back again to take care of them. And you could just see kind of the lights going on. And I knew we were going to be good in the jamboree. We scrimmage Newman every year, and we had a great scrimmage with Newman, but it's a spring game and it's controlled. Well, we went to the jamboree, and we had Mandeville in a jamboree. And at halftime of the jamboree, it was 14-14. And I already told our guys, like, I'm not playing you beyond, because we don't have a lot of kids now. We got 50 players, 50 bodies. We got about 20 players. And so I said, I'm not, whatever the score is at halftime is what the score is going to be, and I'm just playing a JV after that. And so when it was 14-14 at halftime, I went in and I said, guys, I don't need to see any more. You're playing a 5A semifinalist toe-to-toe. And they're going to be, and they had their running back not got hurt, they'd still probably be playing, right?
Yeah.
And so I knew then, I'm like, all right, we're going to be okay. And, we opened up with a meet, and we beat them. And then we had the setback with Covington in a game we should have won. We really could kick ourselves now, because you don't get to go 10-0 a whole lot, right? And then we go to Pine, which is a big rivalry game, and they're really good. And we go for 2 to win it in overtime, and we get it and win it. And then everything just took off. And, we just took off as a football program from that point. And, we've just had incredible offensive numbers. We're averaging right at 41 points a game. Our quarterback has thrown for just under 2,000 yards, 21 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. We've rushed for 2,500 and some odd yards. We got a running back who hopefully Friday night, he's 180 yards away from 2,000. So hopefully he breaks that. And you're talking about a school that had Terrence McGee and Josh Robinson in the same back. Josh coaches our running backs, So those two guys in the same backfield, and the 3 Taylor brothers played there. So they've had some great football players go through there. And so Cy Austin is the running back who has an opportunity to break the all-time school record. So I just think it was the weight room, and then my commitment to those guys. And it's funny, I still live in Lakeview because my wife, it took Katrina to get my wife out of St. Bernard Parish. She's a Holy Angels girl, right? So she ain't moving across the lake. She thinks that the causeway only goes north. She doesn't know how to come home at night. She thinks it only runs north. And so it kind of helps me, to be honest with you, that I drive over there every day. And it's like, Coach, man, I can't believe you come over here every day. I said, I'll drive for 100 miles to go to the Dome. So I might as well drive 70, So it's all kind of worked out for us.
Yep.
Cy Austin drove an hour and a half to come get a workout at D1 with me.
Right.
And I didn't know at the time where he was coming from Franklinton, but him and his parents came down. He just reached out to us. We didn't know where he was coming from. And him and his parents drove an hour and a half
Yeah.
to get a workout with us at D1.
Let-
And the kid was phenomenal, strong. I mean,
Right.
he was built like a brick house. Parents are great. So it's cool to hear that he's the guy having that kind of success.
It's funny that, not really funny. It's unfortunate that because I guess we're so far away from everything, we don't have a lot of kids being recruited. Like we have a 6'6" receiver, Jaden Garrett, who's really an excellent player. No one's looking at him. 6'6", you'd think somebody just give him a preferred walk on. We have a really, really good offensive guard in Bo Webb. I just don't get it. But, those kids use that. It almost like channels anger within. And it's like, okay, we'll just go out and beat you. And then somebody's going to have to look at them and say, they got to, God knows I'm not the best high school coach around, not even close, but we're winning games. And it's because we have good players who work hard,
No, that's awesome to hear, man. It's just I went to a playoff game. Holy Cross played Franklinton in 08,
Right.
I think. I was still at Southeastern, and I just remember, one, I was shocked at how far away it was from Hammond. Like, you don't realize how far north it was. But when you walk into and you pull up and you see the lights, it's like Friday Night Lights. And, I mean, it was a special place then. I think one of the Taylor brothers was playing at the time, too. And
Probably
it was special. It's good to – yeah, I think that's right. That's right.
Those brothers are the only set of brothers ever to wear number 18 at LSU. All three of them wore 18, and that's a special deal. And they still come around, a little bit. And like I said, Josh coaches us, but I remember telling Shane when we went up there when I was at EJ the first time we played them, they were rolling, and they kicked off to us, and they had a linebacker, number 5, who was about 5'7", about 200 pounds of muscle, and he came running down the middle of the field. We were a cross wedge, and nobody wanted to hit him. And we had a little running back named Justin Rebenak, and he hit Rebenak, and the next thing to hit the ground was the back of Rebenak's helmet. I mean, just unloaded on him. And I remember, I knew then how tough they were, and it's really great to experience the pride that the community has once again in the program. Like, I don't know if they ever thought it would come back. I certainly don't think they thought it would come back the way it has. And we got a tough task in front of us Friday night. Brent Indes, believe it or not, I gave Brent Indes his first coaching job. I was the head coach at Abbeville getting my brains beat in.
Yeah.
And he had just left USL at the time, was from New Iberia, was a real good quarterback at Catholic in New Iberia. And he was looking for a job, and we hired him. And, man, look where he's been. But, they have tradition. They're used to playing this late in the playoffs. And so those are the kind of obstacles. Plus, they have some talented kids. They got a running back who's as tough as a $2 steak. They got a really, really good receiver. Their quarterback is a tough guy. So it's going to be a fist fight. It's going to be, one of those games where it's going to take 2 or 3 days to recover from it, no matter who comes out on top. It's just going to be one of those kind of nights.
Cool. You got one, Cass?
Yep, I got one. I've been saving this before you, Coach, and it's a question I could really only ask tonight. You sit down for Thanksgiving meal tomorrow. You're gonna have some turkey, and what's gonna be your sides? What's your favorite Thanksgiving side?
God, my favorite Thanksgiving side, I guess, is I like the stuffing. I like oyster dressing. Look, I'm Italian, so there'll be a meatball around here somewhere. So I'm going over to my parents' house. I'm fortunate that my parents are still with us. My crazy brothers will be there, and their families, and so it'll be a good time. I don't sleep much. Once practices, we call Wednesday hay day. Hay's in the barn, and for me, the game's now in the players' hands. So I don't sleep much Wednesday night, Thursday night, and hopefully I don't sleep Friday night. Hopefully I'm celebrating a little bit with a cold one somewhere. But I'll enjoy my family tomorrow. I don't see nearly as much of them. A bunch of people that have seen me asked me if I went on a diet. When I left Holy Cross, I was 268 pounds. I went Monday to get my yearly physical, and I was 188. And even the doctor's like, "Did you lose this on purpose?" And I'm like, "Doc, I'll tell you, I get up at 4:30 in the morning. I get home at 9:30 at night. I sleep at school a couple of nights a week. So I'm not really on a diet. It's not anything around to eat, you know." So, but I'll make up for that tomorrow a little bit.
Yeah,
that's right. You deserve it.
Thank you, buddy.
My last question, Coach. So last week, not last week, Sunday, we had Joe St. Philip on, defense coordinator from the Owls. The Owls have kind of been the highlight of our show with that great run that they're on.
Sure.
So I'd love to just hear, we have we had our most views that we've had with this podcast from Joe's episodes. I know we got some Chalmette listeners out there. So can you, me and Cass were playing against you when you were coaching at Chalmette High, but I'd love to hear just your experience when you were at Chalmette High with the Owls.
I'm gonna tell you, I will. When my number's called, one of the last things in my memory will be those Longhorns on top of that gym, playing. They can't play it anymore, so I don't even want to mention it. But how they would start the fourth quarter and start the games.
Yeah.
But I've said this, Lance, and I will always love Holy Cross. But had Katrina not hit, I would still be at Chalmette to this day. It's the best people. Now that I'm at Franklinton, it's very similar. But I can't talk enough about, Mr. Warner and Miss Munt and Jack Serenay and, David Brissett when he was there. And it was just really a special time in my life. And those people down there, the kids we coached, I still, haven't had an opportunity to coach great players. I've been very fortunate to have coached some great players along the way. Devin Hill will rank in 1, 2, or 3 in the roll call of the greatest player. Rest in peace. God loved him to death. He was a great player. And Gareth DeBetta, the Bartholomew brothers. I mean, I could go on and on about Lou and Will Schneider. Will's the active principal. Those guys played for us, and I just loved them. And I'm glad that Jason has those guys rolling the way they do. And I hope they go bite Neville, man. You can go, you can go get that if you believe you can.
Yep. Awesome.
Yep.
Those guys speak real highly of you. Every time I talk to the Bartholomew, Stephen Battaglia, Ryan Sinopoli, all those, they still bring you up. They talk really good about you.
I still see them at the ballpark. My stepson, Lanny's like my son now. It's been Sharon and I have been married for so long, but I go see little Lanny, little Bubby play travel ball, and there's Kelly D, and he's still cutting up like a fool, and Russell Turner just still acting up. Randy Hill, I could go on and on. Those guys haven't grown up. I haven't grown up yet, but I surely know they haven't grown up yet.
Agreed.
Everything's the same. The only thing that changes the place is just people moving. That's all.
You're right, guys.
It's all the same stuff. All the same stuff. Coach, man, I can't let you know how much we appreciate you coming on here. That was a whole lot of fun.
Yes, it was. It was some good memories.
Yeah, no doubt. Go get them on Friday night, huh?
We will, guys. Thank you. And, man, thanks for this opportunity. It's always great to see you guys. I know what kind of athletes you guys were and what kind of people you are, so I'm glad to see you doing well. Lance, tell your wife I said hello, man.
I will. I told her you were getting on. She said, make sure he doesn't curse.
He did good.
He did great. Yep.
Good. All right. See you, Coach.
There he is. Never disappoints.
Awesome. No, he is awesome, and it is cool to see Franklinton, to have them. He's got those guys back rolling. They've always been a staple of Louisiana high school football. All right, we'll jump right back into that D2 non-select here quickly.
Yep. Got a couple fun facts here.
Go ahead. Go.
All right, Franklin. Here we go. Franklin, it's their first time ever in the quarterfinals.
Okay.
Along with one other school that we'll get to later, but Franklin, first time in the quarterfinals, and they're a 4 seed, which is pretty incredible, So hopefully those guys can go get that first time in the semifinals. And then, I don't have much on Opelousas and Plaquemine. You got anything on that matchup there, Opelousas and Plaquemine?
I don't. I don't know much about Plaquemine. I know that Opelousas won state last year. I know that Jennings is a tough place to win, and they're usually pretty good. So for Opelousas to do that to them, it wouldn't shock me to see the 14 seed in the semis.
Yep. North DeSoto is one of the quarterbacks that's on that list. So their kid, quarterback Luke Delafield, he's 19th currently in Louisiana, career passing yards. And he is actually he's right around 8,000. He's 200 yards behind the legend Sean Santos, our quarterback from when we were in high school. And so Luke Delafield has a chance to pass up Sean Santos, who's sitting in the 18th spot. And so so for that reason, we're cheering for Cecilia this week to go have a big night defensively.
Yeah, shut him out. Shut him out. Look at you bringing the stats. I have Cecilia, obviously, they went to Lutcher and won. Like, that's a real program. Coach Skanes at Cecilia has done a tremendous job. North DeSoto hadn't lost since week 3. They played West Monroe. They lost 63-14. And since then, they haven't given up more than 20 points. So that's going to be an interesting matchup right there. And then we'll go, that does it for non-select. Division II select. Top of the bracket, you've got Shaw hosting Kennedy and Madison Prep hosting Astruma. Kennedy's going to have a lot of athletes. I think Shaw also has a lot of athletes, but I think that Shaw program, with where they're at, with Coach Hank and what he's doing, I think Shaw is going to be in the semifinals.
Yeah, Kennedy's got some ballers. It feels like, where Coach Hank Tierney is on, I think, year 3 and growing his program. John F. Kennedy feels more like a year 1, year 2 program that's just a step behind. So I like the Eagles there. And, it just feels like a collision course here between Madison Prep and the Shaw Eagles. So I think that's where my mind is with these two matchups at the top.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think, Madison Prep, Astruma's got a good back. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think he too is committed to LSU. But so they'll have to slow him down. But that Madison Prep program, they've been really good for a while now. See them playing Shaw in the semis. Now at the bottom, we'll go down to the Bayou. You have E.D. White hosting Vanderbilt Catholic. This is, two traditional rivals. I don't think these two schools like each other very much. They actually played for the baseball state championship a few years back. E.D. White won. This E.D. White football program, and I think they're starting to get some more recognition now. They're the real deal. We went there in 2021 for a semifinal game and lost the one possession game. It's a tremendous atmosphere. I'll never forget. And I want to talk about the semifinal atmospheres next week, obviously, but at E.D. White for that game, they won the coin toss. And if you weren't paying attention, you would have thought from the sound of the crowd that they just won the game. Like, it was wild. So that'll be an interesting one. But I think E.D. White's just too much for Vanderbilt Catholic.
Yeah, I watched E.D. White week 1, and I'm sure they're better now. But their defense is very impressive. The offense moved the ball. I mean, they're just a program that's just been around doing this for a long time. But it's a really cool matchup. That whole town's going to be there. It's going to be a great atmosphere, like you said.
Yep. And then down at the bottom, you've got the what's the mascot of Leesville, Lance? You know?
I do not know that.
The Wampus Cats.
You got me on that one.
The Leesville Wampus Cats. They host Booker T. Washington. Did anybody get a better draw the first 2 weeks of this playoffs than Booker T. Washington?
So Booker T. Washington, they're the other team it's their first time in the quarterfinals, and they've really earned their way there with a forfeit win over ULAB. And so, sometimes that's what it takes to get to the third round. A little forfeit, a little help, and I'm sure. I expect they have their hands full with Leesville this week.
Yeah, and Leesville is I don't know if they've won the state championship recently, but I know that as a program that's a very proud town, very proud program. So I think, Booker T. Washington, I guess, ultimately got gifted into the quarterfinals. Good for that team. They had to beat Buckeye, but I think Leesville rolls from there. Division III select, down to these last 8 teams, this might be across the board at this point of the playoffs, maybe the deepest division. You've got Dunham, who is tremendously talented, hosting Lafayette Christian, another team who is tremendously talented, used to winning. They match up with the 4 and the 5 seed, Jules Sumner hosts Bunkie. You heard Coach Salt talk about Jules Sumner. That's a program that's kind of up and down down there in Washington Parish. They play in their stadium's called the Hole. It's built into a hole. It's a neat little deal they got going there. I don't know much about Bunkie, but this first matchup with Dunham and LCA is going to be big time.
Yeah, I mean Dunham, they've been impressive all season. They went out and won 42-0 against Parkview Baptist last week, which is it really jumped off the page to me. You know, man, that's two programs that know each other really well. I didn't expect it to be like that, and so it feels like Dunham is rolling, and we probably should not doubt them. I thought they had a really tough draw coming out the gates, but if they come out the way they did the last week, I think LCA is gonna be in trouble.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Go back to that Parkview, you think two teams that are so seemingly as schools evenly matched. In week one, Dunham beat Parkview 46-0. So that's that's nothing to just pass on by. Like that stands out. I think Dunham with the quarterback that they have, it's just going to be too much for LCA. LCA is, they're talented, but they've given up some points. Rummel scored 42 on them. Evangel scored 56 on them, so that Dunham has a chance to put up some points in that game. And then down at the bottom, you've got Calvary, defending champ, hosting Episcopal, and you've got Isidore Newman. I believe you're going to be there on Friday, right? Yep. So go ahead.
So the Calvary quarterback, he's the third guy that's in that top 20 all-time passing yards category here. So he's 13th on the top 20 list. He's at 9,000 yards, and so which is not shocking because Calvary's put up a ton of points all year, every year for the last few years. So, but yeah, and both of those guys, the North DeSoto kid and the Calvary kid, they win. If those teams continue to win, they're going to easily jump into the top 10 of career passing yards in the history of Louisiana. So pretty cool stuff to kind of keep an eye on. Even if
no doubt.
Even if you don't have a rooting interest in a matchup, it's always cool to keep up with those numbers. And then, down at the bottom, I met with Coach Nelson Stewart, friend of the program, this morning, and he was awesome as always. He's super excited. He said his guys they're almost giddy in the sense of like they know this is going to be the biggest matchup of the season, toughest opponent they faced all year, and they're here for the challenge, and they're enjoying their time together. The energy's great, the vibe's great, and so they're just ready to go. You could feel it. You could feel it through a Zoom call. I could feel his positive energy and his excitement for Friday.
Yeah, no doubt. And I tell you, last week now they overmatched Darby Woods, but the way that they went about it, the confidence that they played with, you couldn't have looked any better than they looked last week. Mm-hmm. And it's just like they look like that they were ready to go on a mission, and it's just Catholic New Iberia is going to be the next team in their way. And I think they're both them and Calvary are headed for another rematch in the semifinals.
Now, the key down there is, and you might have seen it last week, I'm not sure exactly when some of this happened, but their two big linemen are having some injury issues right now. So Newman's a little beat up on the O-line. Catholic New Iberia brings the biggest challenge, I think, is Catholic New Iberia is in the box. They bring a lot of different defensive looks. And when you have a lot of different defensive looks and blitzing and very aggressive style of play in the box, of course, that puts a lot of pressure on the O-line. And so it's kind of a tough week to be beat up on the offensive line when you're facing such an aggressive style of defensive play. And so, Catholic New Iberia team, they're really good. Their head coach's brother is the UL head football coach, I believe, right? And so they're a really well coached football team, and by far the toughest matchup Newman has faced this year. Yeah,
no doubt. And it's this again when you look at this playoff bracket, you've got the 7 seeds. Catholic New Iberia, the 9 seed being LCA. Like this is a really, really good division. It's a very competitive division. This will be one to watch here moving forward. In the division you got on Division 3 non-select, anything interesting? We got St. James Pine, Union Parish, and Kinder.
The Oak Grove. Well, first off, we can start at the top. St. James is they're rolling. I don't see them. I think they're the favorite here in this bracket. Union Parish is pretty good, but down in the most intriguing matchup is Oak Grove and Sterlington. So those are two teams in the same area. It's the 45th meeting between these two schools. Oak Grove is leading it 26-18. And talk about two programs that have just done a ton of winning over the last 4 years. They're seniors. I got this off the Louisiana Louisiana Productions Facebook page.
14-0, the 14-0 thing.
Yeah, that guy does a great job. So they're seniors. The Oak Grove seniors are 40-11. The Sterlington seniors are also 40-11 in their careers. The Oak Grove team has 2 district championships over the last 4 years. Sterlington has 3 district championships over the last 4 years. And then Oak Grove has 2 state championship rings, their seniors. And the Sterlington seniors have 1 state championship ring. So long story short, these are 2 teams that are used to winning, that have seniors that are, know what it's all about. They've been here before, and they know each other really well. So it's that's definitely the easiest matchup to keep an eye on.
Yeah, no doubt. It seems like Oak Grove. Every year you look up in the Superdome and they're all black helmets are playing. Like same thing with Sterlington, and that's 2 of the most tradition-rich programs in the state. The fact that we get it in a quarterfinal matchup is pretty fun, and neither one of those teams are used to losing, especially in their eyes, this early in the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle that when that game is being played at Oak Grove, which is another tough place to play. But again, I don't think Sterlington's going to be all that intimidated by that.
Yep.
In the Division 4 Select, you've got who I think is the odds-on favorite, and I hope because I like their Coach Brock Prejean, Vermilion Catholic. I hope they go find a way to get them a state championship. They host St. Edmunds. St. Edmunds put up 78 on St. Martin's last week, and then they play the winner out of the 12 and 13 seed Kentwood and Southern Lab. There's not a lot of players on either one of those teams because the schools are so small, but per capita, there's probably got to be more athletes on the field that night than anywhere else in the state of Louisiana.
Yeah, it was a fun one. When I saw that matchup, just brought back good memories. I feel like going to the Superdome as kids, that was Kentwood and Southern Lab were 2 pretty common names to see up there on the scoreboard. So that's definitely that brings back good memories. And like you mentioned, St. Edmund, they put up 78 points last week. It's not super surprising just because of the style of play that St. Martin's brings to the table. But, they're obviously capable of scoring a lot of points and doing it really fast.
Yep. And then we've got Covenant Christian hosting Washita Christian. Washita Christian as an 11 seed making a run through the playoffs. The winner of that game plays Riverside and Ascension Catholic. I know Covenant Christian has done a good job with their program. Again, it's fairly new.
Mm-hmm.
But Washita Christian coming down from Monroe, I could see them going to win that game.
Yeah, it's a tough one to really feel out. I mean, Covenant Christian, them beating Central Catholic, that's not too far from those guys either. That's a pretty impressive win. So both of these teams are pretty impressive wins there. I mean, Washita Christian beating Catholic Point Capee the way they did is very impressive.
Yep.
And so, yeah, don't know a whole lot about them. Just looking through some of the wins, that's some impressive, notable wins there.
No, absolutely. And that's, again, Washita Christian, a team that is used to winning. They're not used to going home before the semifinals. And in Division 4 non-select, you've got the team at the top that is always seemingly in not just in deep in the playoffs, but in the Superdome. Haynesville, they host Welsh. You have Jeanerette hosts General Trask. I think it's Haynesville and everybody else down here.
Yeah, that was one. So Haynesville, fun fact with them, outside of Curtis, they've been to the quarterfinals more than anybody else in Louisiana history. And so it was only like 3 less than Curtis. So they've had, they've had almost as much success as like a John Curtis. So, they'll be a tough one to take down for sure.
Yep. And then down at the bottom, you've got Logansport hosting Franklin and Mangum making an extremely long drive down to South Platte. you got to see South Platte. I don't know much about Mangum, but I would have to imagine that Mangum's going to have their hands full.
Yeah, South Platte, they got a total of like 22 players, and of the 22, 15 of them could play anywhere for anybody. And so they have a really good quarterback. That starting quarterback is a junior, and he's been starting since he's in 8th grade. And so, good athlete, good baseball player. So yeah, I'm cheering for South Platte just because I got to know those guys a little bit. And then Logansport, the main thing I know about Logansport is they're one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Division IV select school, non-select school. And so they're a team that's bounced back and forth between 1A and
Yeah.
2A, mostly more 2A, it feels like, over the last 10 years, but now they're back in this smaller division. So, that's an advantage at this
Yeah,
level, for sure.
absolutely.
You got more players, you got more kids in the school. It's an advantage at that smaller level.
Yep, no doubt. And it seems there's been quite a few teams that down there. I know Sterlington was one of them. Sterlington at one point was always, teetering between 2A, 3A. Now they're almost on the 4A side of it. So, kind of going back and forth. But no, there's absolutely no doubt down at this level. I mean, it's the difference in having 20 more kids to choose from or 15 more kids on your team is huge over your opponent. So that'll do it for the high school side. Again, it's the best week in football. I've always said it. I still believe it. If you're a high school player, coach, program practicing right now, or go enjoy it. There's nothing more special than playing the day after Thanksgiving, except for maybe playing the night of Thanksgiving, and that's what our Green Wave get to do. You'll be there. They've got Memphis. Memphis is this isn't going to be an easy out by any means, but Tulane moved up to number 17. Is that right? In the last
That's right.
playoff projection. Yep. And there's a lot of stuff that has to happen, a lot of stuff that has to go right. But someone on ESPN was even made mention to the fact that there's a chance with a 3-loss Big 12 champ that the Big 12 gets completely left out if Tulane's able to jump ahead and make a playoff and be that 5th ranked Group of 5 champ.
Yeah, it's really intriguing to look at different scenarios. I mean, the only concerning part was I think Arizona State moved ahead of Tulane, and so it's just one of those feelings of like the committee. If any doubt, they're going to lean more towards that ACC champ or that Big 12 champ. And so, with that said, I think Tulane needs to go out and really make a statement. Which one good thing here is that their 2 final opponents, they got Memphis is 9-2. I know Florida State is not typical Florida State this year. They beat Florida State, and they're 9-2. And so you're gonna beat a good team tomorrow. You got to do it handily. I think you got to put on a great show. Then you got Army the following week in the conference championship. So I think that it's 2 really good opponents that they can go put on a great show at home. It's you gotta do your best with what you got, basically, right? I mean, you gotta go perform and hope that the committee sides with you and win them over somehow.
Yeah, no, they're going to have the stage all to themselves. They're the only college game tomorrow night is on ESPN. So if they're going to make a statement, tomorrow would be the perfect opportunity to do that. Then you look down in the Sun Belt. ULM is on a 5-game losing streak. I know they started hot. I believe they need to win for bowl eligibility, and you have Raging Cajuns of ULL headed up to Monroe. It's a 11 a.m. kick on Saturday. ULL wins. They go to the Sun Belt Championship. ULM wins. They go to a bowl game. It's good to see both of those teams playing with something on the line.
Yeah, it's always a great rivalry that they're both schools student bases are going to get real excited. A lot of trash talking, and so it'll be exciting. I don't know the tiebreaker scenario, but I know, like you mentioned, if UL wins, it's simple. They're in the conference championship. If they lose, they're in a 3-way tie potentially. So I don't know exactly how that could possibly play out.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to need from there. For them, in their case, just win and you're in. And speaking of exciting, one game we haven't mentioned, two teams. I think we maybe only mentioned one of them so far on our show. The Bayou Classic Saturday. You got the Southern Jaguars and the Grambling Tigers meeting in the Superdome. How could we forget it? Southern's already locked up a spot in the SWAC championship. They played Jackson State December 7th, but I mean, I don't know this for fact, but if you're asking Southern Jaguar fans if they would rather win the SWAC or beat Grambling, I think they'd rather beat Grambling.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's obviously a huge game. Pretty much the whole city it revolves around the Southern Classic this weekend, and so yeah, and so do they play a conference championship after this? Is that what you said?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, that's cool. So I mean, Southern has a lot to play for. That's couple big games ahead of Southern. So that's always cool to see.
Yep, no doubt. And then just, seeing those, but I remember watching it as a kid. You just watch for the halftime show, and
Oh yeah.
it's a neat deal. It's a neat deal. That's all I got for tonight. I think we pretty much covered everything, but this was a fun. Coach Salt was awesome. He's great to talk to. He's exciting. We've got some big time matchups this weekend or this Friday night to look forward to. You'll be at Newman. I am actually coming to you live from a loft at my in-laws' house in Texas. So we'll be here, but I will be following all the scores and watching on BSN. We're actually going to a high school football game on Friday at 2:00. So we'll be back Friday night to recap all the action from Louisiana.
Yep, it'll be fun.
Yep. All right. Y'all have a good Thanksgiving. If you're watching, subscribe, please. We've gotten a slew of subscribers here lately from, I don't know if they're all from the Paris. We might have to have somebody from Chalmette on every week. But subscribe and like, and y'all have a good Thanksgiving. Enjoy it. We will see y'all Sunday evening.